Hi everyone, thanks for joining me here today. My name is Stento. I'm a certified athletic trainer at Chesterton High School in Northwest Indiana. I'm also an impact trained athletic trainer. I'm very happy to be here to talk a little bit about my experiences being an ITAT here. This is my third year. After going through the original program, I did a one-day seminar in Indianapolis. And at that session, as you saw in maybe one of the previous slides, I went over a lot of the information about how to interpret the scores on the impact test, understanding the data, how things are managed, how things are taken from the field through a clinical course to resolution of the athlete. So from there, each year I've kept my ITAT going by taking continuing education. Last year I did talk about and watch and learn a little bit more about vision therapy. Most recently I talked and tried to learn a little bit more about cervicogenic concussion management as well too. So I think what I try to do is look at maybe where I need to improve as a clinician, become a little bit better at handling the people that I see every single day, and try to remember some of those instances where I wanted to know a little bit more and focus my continuing ed on doing that. That's one of the benefits of being an impact trained athletic trainer, having the ability to go on, look at what's on the website, go through a webinar or go to a session at, say, the NATA convention or at a local area where they may be giving it, and now refresh your skills, learn something new, try to always refine your ability to handle the kids and be a better advocate for them. I think there's always something more that we can be learning about concussion because the information is coming out so quickly, and there's always new changes and new laws that have been passed, so we've got to stay up to date to understand a little bit more about how to handle kids who have concussions and make sure they return back to the sport, but also to their academics as well too. Realistically, I try and take a kind of an overall view when I manage concussions. Certainly a symptom scoring sheet is used every day at our school to make sure we understand a little bit more about what are they actually experiencing, what are they feeling, and I can talk with a parent as well too to understand maybe at home some symptoms they are reporting. And we do that every day to hopefully see a decrease in the symptoms, the number, but also the severity of the symptoms. We do the impact testing. We have a great computer lab. We have multiple computer labs and a nice quiet environment. We can dim the lights if we need to, and we can certainly get them into an area where they can try to do the best they can on an impact test. It's easy for me to do this at two facilities. It's all through a network, so I have no problem doing the testing. The interpretation of the test going through the ITAT program gives me a little more insight, not just looking at the composite scores, but the actual individual portions of the test. And that's where I think a lot of understanding about where they're having a deficit comes into play. I can sit down with an athlete or with a parent as well too and say, okay, he's having a deficit in this area. For example, reaction time. Where did he score poorly on the individual sections of the test? And I can flip the page and show it to him. Here's where you did a problem, here's where you had a problem. Many times they will recall, oh yeah, I had a problem with directions, or I didn't click fast enough, I didn't understand. I said, well, when you take the test again next week, you can remember to do those things. We can go over those areas as well too. So it becomes, I think, a little better tool to understand how they can become better at doing the memory portion, but also the reaction time on the test. So the interpretation, but also looking at the clinical trajectories as well too, looking at those kind of bits and pieces of data. I can now talk to mom and dad and say, it's going to take a while for him or her to reduce their symptoms. We need to do some things to help them out. It's not going to be an immediate thing where they're going to feel better in one day. It's going to be usually a gradual process. In addition to that, I've also implemented using the vestibular ocular motor screening. I did that through a webinar through ITAT about 3 years ago. And since I started doing that, I've become almost regular doing that with kids. I also learned from experience that when they have a lot of symptoms and they're not feeling great right after the test, the VOMS test will many times make the symptoms worse. So I've backed off on it. I've had to say, okay, I gotta wait a few days, let them feel better, do the VOMS testing, see if they have saccadic movement, see if there's any problems with smooth pursuits, etc., see if there's a convergence insufficiency, and then be able to track them after that time. I also know if they get worse that there's something going on with the eyes. When I put that in combination with the impact test and the symptom scoring sheet, and also, let's say, a balance error scoring system test that I could do, I could look at the whole picture and give recommendations to our guidance counselors, to mom and dad at home, to individual teachers that may have questions as well too. And we try and usually give the opportunity for them to have a period of time where they don't have any academic requirements until they're feeling better, and then having them return back to school with a half day of school, minimal amount of homework where they can start to try and make up in bits and pieces, maybe 20 minutes at a time, and then looking at implementing a full day class, and then back into testing. I would certainly recommend quizzes, let's say a 5 or 10 question quiz instead of a 50 question test. And depending on types of tests, not using computers the first time, maybe it's a paper version. And giving some recommendations to help them do well in school and answer any questions they have as well too. I can do a VOMS test a few days later or a week later, but I usually don't do all the tests on the same day. I don't have as much time to do that, but at the same time, I don't need to make their symptoms worse if they already have reported an increase in symptoms after they've taken the impact test. So that's something that is important for me to look at as well too. I think it's a great indicator of how their brain is processing information when they take the impact test, put that together with a VOMS test, look at what's going on with the symptom score, and see if we need to back off on some activities or progress accordingly. When we get to the point of exertional testing, usually the doctor is the one that is, absolutely, the doctor is the one that's making that call to say, yes, we can start the return back to play. Many times I would help make a recommendation on a referral sheet to the doctor, depending on who it is, and we have many very good doctors in the area, and they understand impact testing. They've gotten to know a little bit more through conversations with me, as well as actually looking at the test with me and sitting down and saying, okay, here's a deficit area, here's a problem area, or maybe they've had an increase in symptoms after they've taken the test. So that to me tells me their brain is still not ready. We need to give them a little bit more time, and then when they're doing pretty well, we can gradually go through the exertional testing protocol, and if there's any problems with that, I can certainly report that back to the doctor as well. Hopefully these are all just checks and balances that I've learned through the system of going through the training as an impact trained athletic trainer to do what's best in the interest of the student athlete, make sure they return back out there safely and academically return back to what they want to do with their goals. Because I know many of the high school students are not going to go on and play college sports or even professional sports and need a brain to work for the rest of their life. So that's really something that's important for me to convey to mom and dad as well too.